guys, welcome to New Music Saturday. So this is a talk where I basically go over new music releases, music news, and stuff like that. So let's just get right into it. Last year was a great year for music with some of my favorite artists, including The Killers, Sam Fender, Lord Huron, Roosevelt, Weezer, Still Corners, Ryan Adams, Night Traveler, John Mayer, The War on Drugs, Rise Against, Ludwig Hart, and Kings of Leon, all releasing great albums last year. So hopefully 2022 will live up to 2021. I hope at least. Let's just go over a little bit of what we have so far this year. So this year we got Once Twice Melody by Beach House, As I Try Not to Fall Apart by White Lies, Butterfly 3000 by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Apocalypse Whenever by Bad Sons, Earthling by Eddie Vedder, and Everything Was Forever by Sea Power. Now this is just a few of the many releases this year, but I mainly focus on the indie stuff. So, going to the new releases of the past 2 weeks, we have Things Are Great by Band of Horses, which actually is great. It's their best album in easily 10 years. We have Ucha by Stereophonics. Most people don't listen to Stereophonics anymore, but they're a pretty good band, and it's a pretty good album. I would recommend it. Then we have How Is It That I Should Look at the Stars by The Weather Station. Now, this album will probably be a grower for me, but I didn't like it as much at first. Now, just kind of as a side note, The Weather Station released a great album called Ignorance last year, which I highly recommend. For some reason, I just now got around to listening to that album, and I was really surprised how good it is. It's definitely a must listen. So, let's see. Next we have From 2 to 3 by Peach Pit, who I understand is a pretty new indie band. I don't listen to them much. The album was pretty good, though. We have A Modern Life by Low Moon. Again, I've never heard of Low Moon. They're a kind of obscure band. A very good album. Next up, we have Angels in Real Time by Gang of Youth. This has been a pretty widely anticipated release after 2017's Go Farther in Lightness. Angel in Real Time, I've heard the singles. I haven't actually listened to the full album yet. Just kind of skimmed through it. But it seemed decent enough, but it's definitely a departure from their previous stuff. So next up, we have Tears for Fears. Yeah, the old pop band from the 80s. Yeah, Tears for Fears, back with their new album, The Tipping Point. Now, this album is their first album in 17 years. That's almost as long as I've been alive. Now, upon first listen, I would not have rated this album as one of their better albums, but I would venture to say that it probably is actually. It's got a lot of great production techniques, great singing, and just an overall good feel to it. So shout out to Tears for Fears for making a relevant album in 2021. That's pretty impressive. And then we have Fever Dreams, Parts 1 through 4 by Johnny Marr. Now, this has been released over the past few months as EPs, and Group of 4 EPs, actually just like Beach House's Once Twice Melody was. It's kind of a new way to release an album, just like breaking it up into 4 EPs, but I'm seeing a lot more artists do it these days, and it seems to be working pretty well for them. So that's the end of the new releases section. But I'll go a little more specific and talk about a few of my favorite new releases. My favorite one probably being A Modern Life by Low Moon. It's a great it is obscure. It's an obscure album. Most people, I'm sure, have never heard of Low Moon, but it's got like an overall pop rock feel, but with some cool dream pop and ambient textures and good songwriting. It's a very good sophomore release. Their debut album, the name slips my mind, but if you're into the band Talk Talk, this album sounds specifically like their album Color of Spring. So, just as a side note. So the second place goes to Tears for Fears with their album The Tipping Point. It's a very strong album, especially for being so late in their career, so it's definitely a recommended listen. So next up we have Band of Horses with their album Things Are Great. And as the title suggests, Things Are Great. It actually is their best album since their second album, which I believe has ceased to exist, but don't quote me on that. It's just a solid album overall though. So moving on to number 4, we have Johnny Marr with Fever Dreams Part 1 through 4. For being such a key member of the Smiths, and being in countless other bands afterwards, he still retains an impressive amount of creative ability to be able to release such a solid album so late in his career. It's a very good album with a lot of 80s influences, but also a lot of new influences too, so definitely keep your eyes open for that one. It's been one of my favorites so far this year. So that wraps up the new releases segment of this episode. Now we'll go to the what to look for next. which is basically just new releases to look forward to later in the year. So to be announced, we have Wilco, who is currently working on a new album, Interpol, who is working on a new album, Death Cab for Cutie, also working on a new album. We got Arcade Fire. Now, Arcade Fire has been working on a new album ever since 2019, I believe. I have mixed feelings about their last two albums, mainly negative feelings, but you never know, this could turn out to be a pretty good album, so we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds for Arcade Fire. So, also to be announced, we have the 1975, who recently deleted all their social media accounts, which leads most fans to believe that they're about to release new music pretty soon. So that's exciting. And ever since they dropped Pressure Machine last year, the Killers have been talking about their 8th album, which is currently unnamed and there's no release date set for it. But they've been hard at work, and assuming if their tour gets canceled this year because of COVID or international stuff going on, maybe we'll get a new Killers album this year. And if we do, 3 albums in 3 years is basically unheard of for most bands these days, except maybe King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. But they're kind of an oddity. Now, rumor has it that Weezer is going to release a new album. Actually, they're going to release 4 albums this year with the theme of season. So the first one, Spring, is going to be released March 20th, or so they say at least. So be crossing your fingers and hope that that works out, because having 4 new Weezer albums this year could prove to be quite interesting. So for our next one, let's see what we got here. We have Rolling Coastal Blackout Fever announced their new album Endless Rooms, I believe, to be released in April. So they're a good underground band from Australia, I believe. So definitely check that one out once it comes out. And Blossoms, they're a good indie pop band. Their new album Ribbon Around the Bomb is, I believe, is coming out next month. Don't quote me on that, but it's coming out pretty soon. So keep your eyes out for that. That's probably going to be a pretty good album based off their last 3 albums. So that's about it. Next Saturday we'll go over the new releases for next week and await some new album announcements. So until next time, you guys take it easy and have a good day.